Albert Breer joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show once again. How are you, Bert?
I'm good. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing fine. What do you make of the Peyton Manning stuff?
Well, I think that he's been advised by people to take his time on this, and the reason why is simple. Football's a different game. You can't go play pickup when you're 45 or 50. When it's over, it's over, and so that's, I think, part of the process for him. And I know, one thing most players try to avoid doing is making any decisions when they're still kind of in the heat of the season, and that goes on for a couple of weeks after the season ends. So he's had time to let things settle a little bit. And my expectation is still that he's going to retire, but I think it might be as much a function as the lack of a good opportunity out there for him to keep playing as anything else. I mean, we'd probably be talking about something different if Brock Osweiler had held on to that job in the Charger game in Week 17 and had finished out in the playoffs. But he's got his ending, and I don't think there's going to be the kind of opportunity out there for him. And I'm sure his agent and everybody else are investigating this for him. I don't think the opportunity is going to be out there for him. It's going to be enticing enough to pull him back in for the 2016 season.
What would be possibly the thing that would entice him? Because I'm sure he's
just wanting to play. I mean, I know
that. I mean, but what's who would the partner be that would be feasible, that would entice him? Would it be the Rams saying, okay, well, we choose another quarterback in the draft, or assume Case Keenum's not ready yet? We're coming back to Los Angeles. You'd be our guy. Would that be something that entices him? Because to me, that might be the only thing that is at all in the realm, Albert.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only one that makes sense. Because here's the way you got to look at it, right? You have to have a team that's in win-now mode, right? Because if you're a club and you're probably, if you're rebuilding, you're probably not going to go with a 41-year-old quarterback. And so that narrows the list. And how many teams like that need a quarterback? That narrows the list. So the Rams make sense because, obviously Jeff Fisher's been there for 4 years. Les Snead's been there for 4 years. They've built a pretty good talent base, but they don't have a quarterback. And, they're going into a situation where they're going to need to generate interest. And so from a business standpoint, it would make some sense to bring in a guy like Peyton Manning. So maybe if the Rams get through free agency and get to the draft and the answer isn't out there for them, maybe they would look at that. I don't know that it would. I don't know if there's the long-term benefit there for the Rams, but maybe they see the business opportunity and the chance to kind of, just get by at that position in 2016 with a veteran who can, do what he can do what Peyton Manning can do for his teammates. And that would benefit the greater group. But it's hard for me to see where a team would be willing to do that now, before free agency starts, before the draft. Mm-hmm. If he's not going to make a decision here in the next few days, obviously that creates a decision point for the Broncos, and they'll move on, and then this thing could drag on even further. But I still think that, Manning's going to look at the landscape and say to himself, this is the time to go.
But how does this all fit into the pieces of the Von Miller franchising and the Brock Osweiler free agency, where there are other teams that might throw a ton of money at him and entice him?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the interesting thing here is that's where the Rams could also play into this. Is that my expectation the Rams would have an interest in Brock Osweiler, and because we saw Kirk Cousins and Sam Bradford effectively come off the market over the last 24 hours, Brock Osweiler now has a lot of leverage, where he becomes the belle of the ball. And he's got the clear path to free agency because the Broncos couldn't get a deal done with Von Miller, so the franchise tag had to be used on Miller. And so now Osweiler can go to the market. And so, I hate to say it, Rich, but they're probably going to have to overpay him, and it may be on one of these 2-year deals like we saw Nick Foles do last year and we saw Sam Bradford do this year. But they don't have another answer at the quarterback position. And if they wind up letting Osweiler go and Osweiler makes it to the market and Osweiler winds up somewhere else, then you're probably looking at some sort of reclamation project like a Colin Kaepernick or like a Robert Griffin III. And that brings a whole another level of uncertainty there. It's a tough spot for the Broncos to be in, but certainly tagging Miller and making it the exclusive tag gives Elway the chance to kind of turn his attention now not only Osweiler, but a couple of real good defensive free agents, as well, and Malik Jackson and Danny Trevathan.
Albert Breer joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So with Osweiler, as you said, about to get overpaid potentially, Bradford making $18 million a year, Kirk Cousins being tagged at $19 million a year, it sure makes Kaepernick being just south of $12 million look like the bargain of the century. What in the world is happening with him in San Francisco right now, Albert?
Well, he doesn't want to be there. I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, he wants a chance to go out and hit the market, and he's in a little bit of an awkward spot too, because of how his contract's structured. Because that bonus isn't due until April 1st. The Niners can effectively squat on him until then, and then the question becomes: are all the open spots going to be filled? The Jets by then probably have a deal done with Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Broncos, one way or another, are going to have their situation resolved with Brock Osweiler. So it creates a difficult situation for Kaepernick because he is, going to be whatever it is, 20. I think it will be 21 days behind everybody else. And that's the time that Trent Baalke and Chip Kelly have now to try and talk Kaepernick into staying. I know this. If you talk to defensive coaches around the NFL, they think the potential of Kaepernick playing in Chip Kelly's offense is frightening. And even though he has some issues with the people in the front office there, that's something that Colin Kaepernick's really got to think about because he's a different type of quarterback, and not everybody's going to be willing to build an offense around him. And here you have an offense that's tailor-made for his skill set. And Chip Kelly's looking at a player who can give him the things that he was missing in the running game by not having that type of quarterback over the last few years. So the marriage makes sense on paper from a football standpoint. They just got to find a way to convince Kaepernick to do it. And I think the fact that bonus payment isn't due until April 1st gives the Niners some leverage here in that Kaepernick now stands to miss out on chances to start in other places because chances are those seats are going to be filled by the time we get to the start of April.
Yeah, plus who knows when he can be ready, healthy with his shoulder. Nobody knows that too.
Right.
So with Flacco doing his deal today to lower I assume it's to lower that massive cap hit, correct, Albert?
Yeah.
Okay, so he does that. Brady did one. So that means Breeze is next, I imagine. Is that who's next here?
Yeah, I would think Drew Brees will be next. And my feeling is that, Drew's 36 years old. I going on 37, and he, my feeling is that he'll wind up doing something at some point this offseason. They'd like to get it done sooner rather than later because these cap numbers actually become real next week, so it prevents what you can do from a spending standpoint and everything else. But my expectation would be that Breeze will be able to get something done at the very least before we get to training camp. And then the big one sitting out there, the one that really could wind up changing the market, is Andrew Luck. And, he's obviously now going into his option year. And say what you will about the way things went last year, but he's a quarterback who got you in the playoffs the first 3 years of his career as the team was rebuilding around him. And this is the one that I think a lot of people have been pointing to the same way that we were all pointing to Aaron Rodgers a few years ago as the one that could change the market. And maybe he becomes the first $25 million a year player. I know that there are some other, quarterbacks out there that are looking to this one and saying, maybe I should wait to do my contract until that one gets done because it could be a market changer.
Well, when does that hit?
I think it's complicated, because here's the thing: is the Colts historically have waited on these types of deals, right? You saw in the past, and this is the way Jim Irsay has done business. They franchise tagged Peyton Manning twice, so they let Peyton Manning get to the end of his rookie deal, and they let Peyton Manning get to the end of his second deal, and franchised him, and then did deals after that. Last year, there was a little bit of a shift in that they went ahead and took care of T.Y. Hilton. And so now the door is open to do deals a year early. And I think that they understand that if they were to wait, that price tag could wind up soaring because I think the franchise number is going to be higher next year, so it's going to be more expensive to franchise them. And then that puts a lot of leverage in the player's court. Say Kirk Cousins gets $18 million a year in July, right before the franchise tag deadline. Say Drew Brees gets $21 million a year. Now you're talking about having a franchise quarterback in his mid-20s, and you're looking at those deals, and you're saying, what in the world is Andrew Luck worth?
Yeah.
So
wow.
It's a little bit of a complicated deal. I think it'll get done before the season starts. It just could take a while because we're talking about a number that's going to be probably above any number that any player in the history of the league's ever got.
Last one for you. I got 30 seconds left. RG3. Let's give somebody, our listeners and viewers, something portable. When does that pop?
Yeah.
When does that hit? New league year?
Well,
just
they got to cut him before the beginning of the league year.
Okay.
So that'll be in the next few days because his $16 million for 2016 becomes guaranteed on the first day of the league
that's not
year.
happening. That ain't happening.
Right. So he's going to be cut in the next few days. And I think, there are a couple teams to watch. The one that's really interesting to me, Rich, the Kansas City Chiefs. They've got some option stuff in their offense because Alex Smith's been running that the last few years. And Andy Reid has such a good track record of developing backup quarterbacks. Think about the guys in Philly that went through there and developed. Mike Vick was a backup there at first. Kevin Cobb was traded off for a bounty, for a second-round pick, and for Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. They traded A.J. Feely. Andy Reid's got such a good history developing quarterbacks, not just in Philly, but he also did it in Green Bay under Mike Holmgren. Seems like that'd be the perfect spot for him. Otherwise, I think you could be looking at places like, a Buffalo where he could go in and, again, be a really good system fit and a guy who could develop kind of in the shadows the way he did last year in Washington.
All right, Albert, did you see Urban on NFL Network between me and Mayock?
I did. You're trying to pull him away from us and into the TV business.
No,
That's
I
what it
didn't.
seemed like,
I just said, and I know I heard that. I got a lot of tweets about that from Buckeye Nation because I was just saying, no, because he was very good analyzing stuff. And I said, I feel like Fowler back because, when he was trying to be with his family, and he left Florida to be with his family, he spent time with ESPN. So
yeah, well, I'll just tell you, Rich, no one's competing with your coach's airtime right now. I got ESPN on here, and I guess he's the first base coach, right, down in Bradenton today.
For the Tigers, yes, wearing number 4. That's what he's doing right now.
Yeah. He knows how to market the program. We're going to have we got some interesting years ahead. I'll tell you that.
Take care of yourself, Albert. No, it was great. Actually, it was great chatting with Urban. It really was. It was a fun chat, and 14 kids out there, not even counting. For Noah Spence, it really was quite the weekend for Ohio State, so good for you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to November starting now.
Okay, always. Actually starting, well, I started looking forward to the following November by the end of the first quarter, Albert.
With our Stone Age offense, right?
That's right. Take care, bud. Take care. We'll chat soon.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.